Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Pompiani, UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the South Side. It's not Tuesday, it's Monday, so it's not a Tomlin Tuesday, it's a Tomlin Monday today, given the short week, as the Steelers will have to play a Thursday night game in Cincinnati against the Bengals. And the Steelers coming off a really complete performance yesterday, 23-9 over the Browns, to sit atop the AFC North at 4 wins and 1 loss. They'll take on a Bengals team which is struggling right now. They lost in Green Bay yesterday, 27-18, although they have a new quarterback who's one that I think the Steelers are very familiar with, in Joe Flacco. He didn't have much prep time in that game, but he went there, threw 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions. As far as the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers really dialing things up here. Really good performance, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, had things rolling. It was very interesting to see the play designs on the first play of the game when everyone expected run with that heavy package in there. Instead, it was Aaron Rodgers throwing it to Darnell Washington, who everybody forgot about. I don't know how that's possible at 6'8", but they did. And that led to a first drive score. And that's been one of the differences with the Steelers. They have more first drive points this year through 6 weeks than they did all of last year. And that's a trend they like to continue. Defensively, 17 sacks in the last 3 games. They have been very, very physical on the defensive side. All right, Steelers getting ready for the Bengals. Here's head coach Mike Tomlin.
Good afternoon. I'll reiterate some of the points that I made last night after quickly reviewing the tape. Some of the thoughts and feelings that I had immediately after the game probably rung true. Starting first with our defense, we felt like minimizing their run game was a major component to the game being played on our terms. Last week we talked about not only the new featured runner, but also Teller, Batonio, and Palcic. They're veteran interior group, and we just thought that was the nuts and bolts of the group. And so we challenged our guys in a big way to stand up versus those 3 interior veteran guys. Those guys, coupled with the runner, I thought was a major component of us having the type of day we needed to have. We did what we needed to do in that area, and so it produced opportunities in other areas. They end up, dropping back and throwing the ball, I think, 50-plus times. And when you do that, man, and you got a good rush group in some one-dimensional circumstances, you have an opportunity to have the type of day that we had. Certainly it could have been better. We left some turnovers out there. We had the ball in our hands a couple of times, and we usually secure those, particularly if someone's dropping back and throwing that many times against us under the level of duress that we were able to create. Generally, turnovers come with that, but we weren't able to get it, and so that's something to work on as we transition this week. It's one thing to get the game played on your terms. It's another level of effectiveness when you get the fruit of that labor. And certainly I thought we were missing a turnover or 2 based on the circumstantial environment that we created in play. On the offensive side of the ball, it was a similar discussion just from the flip side. We needed to stay on schedule. A component of staying on schedule was running the ball effectively. To minimize one-dimensional passing moments against the likes of Myles Garrett and so forth. I thought we were largely effective at doing so. I thought we mixed in some changes of launch points with some misdirection and some play-action pass to add to the run game, all done in an effort to reduce our exposure to Myles in those circumstances. And I think we were effective at that. There certainly was some one-dimensional circumstances where we had to deal with him and others. And we passed that test. We kept our quarterback upright. I'd like to see us finish some drives earlier in the game. We were selling for field goals there early on. But oftentimes, that just speaks to the quality of your performance. And as we sat in here last week and talked about leaning in on this game, we acknowledged what a quality unit the Cleveland Browns defense is, and they certainly are. And so they created some challenging times for us, particularly in weighty moments as the field got short. In the first half, we were selling for field goals, and you just can't do that consistently and expect to fluidly produce victory. And so we got some work ahead of us there. Probably our biggest failure, as I mentioned after the game, was the penalty component. We scout crews just like we scout teams. That crew is consistently active in terms of their number of penalties that they throw. I think they were second in the league this year. They were second in the league in 2024. We placed an emphasis on it leading up to the game. We brought in officials for our practices. But with all of that, we still had a collective failure in that area. That's the most penalties that we've had by far all year. And so I'm looking for a quick rebound in that area as we lean in on this week's work, man. You can't step into, road AFC North stadiums, man, and be highly penalized and think that you're going to fluidly engineer victory. It's just not realistic. And so we got to get better. We got to get better in a hurry from that perspective. But largely, I like the energy in which the collective played. I thought we generally played complementary football in all three phases, supporting one another. There were examples of people stepping up, man, and getting opportunity. We had some guys coming back from injury and so forth. Can't say enough about young Key as a punt returner, getting his first NFL action in place of Calvin, for example. I thought he made good decisions. I thought he was mechanically solid, fundamentally solid. But it's a lot of examples of that, and that's just the nature of this journey. I don't think that there's been a game this year where we hadn't elevated someone from our practice squad in some form or fashion in an effort to participate. I just think it's a function of the game and player availability, and that's why we got to train all people. We got to harden the collective. We got to develop skill and know-how in all areas. Just knowing that at some point in time, everyone's going to get an opportunity to show their readiness and their capabilities. And so, particularly on a short week, man, we're going to, be urgent in that regard. A couple injury notes. Calvin missed the last game. We'll see what this week looks like. It's a short week, but we do have a good work day tomorrow. We'll see what that holds. There were no ill effects of Jalen Ramsey's return to action, Joey Porter Jr.'s return to action. There were some bumps and bruises associated with play in game, but nothing that would raise our antennas regarding player availability on Thursday night as I sit here right now. Obviously, Miles Killebrew's injury is significant, and he could be described as out. Now I'll transition and talk about the Bengals. First, their defense. They have a new defensive coordinator in Al Golden. That certainly has our attention. There's intimacy in these divisional relationships. Most cases, man, you know them, they know you, and it creates an awesome chess match that's competitive and challenging and fun. They probably have a better handle on what we're capable of in this component of the matchup. I'm not highly familiar with Coach Golden's schematics, just getting a first look at it. They're doing some things differently than they have done in the past, and that's reasonable to expect when you have a new coordinator. And so because it is a short week, that really has our attention. We're really working with some urgency there. We got to be good. We can't be surprised by any schematics, obviously. And so, man, we'll be working around the clock to level the playing field in terms of familiarity in that area. On to the people. Trey is a game wrecker up front. It starts there for us. I think the last time we were in stadium with him, he got 2.5 or 3 sacks or so. He was a critical component of the game. He's one of the best in the business, man. He needs no endorsement from me. He's got 35 sacks or so in the last 2 years. He had 17.5 in 23. He had 17.5 in 24. He's been ridiculously consistent. They move him around. He plays primarily on their right edge, but he will get some left edge work. And so both tackles have to be ready to block him. If we're interested in assistance in one-dimensional circumstance, we better be prepared for his movement, and it better be pliable in terms of body positioning and chips and so forth. He's just a real challenge. He got some help up front in the form of Slayton, an acquisition from Green Bay. He's an interior big, man, that really controls the run game climate. If we want to have a good day running the football, it kind of starts there. These intimate divisional relationships, man, can often be described in that way. We got young players like Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick. They got new players like Slayton, young players like 90 from Michigan. And so, you're going to establish a rapport, if you will. And to do so in a short week is a big-time challenge, but we better do it. We better stay on schedule. We better minimize our one-dimensional passing circumstances if we want to reduce our exposure to Trey. Man, they got a secondary that's been together now for a while. They went through a transition there with the loss of some significant players a couple of years ago. But guys like DJ Turner and Dax Hill and Geno Stone, man, have been together for multiple years now. You feel that cohesion, the things that they're able to do in the secondary to move people around, to get in complex schematics and check systems of coverage. You see it. They do an awesome job on possession down play, getting sub-package people in there and really matching up with whatever you put on the field. And so we got a full weeks ahead of us from a prep standpoint, getting familiar with Coach Golden and some of the new pieces and even some of the old pieces in terms of how they're deploying them this week. On the offensive side, certainly the story is Joe Flacco. And, it's reasonable to expect him to be significantly better in week 2. He's been in the stadium with them. They've been in the stadium with him. They understand his demeanor, how he deals with circumstances. I would imagine they worked hard a week ago on developing timing and cohesion. I'd imagine it's taken a significant step after having done so under some live football circumstances. I saw him make some anticipatory throws even last week, and so I thought he was significantly better as the game wore on. And so certainly we got a full week's work ahead of us in terms of minimizing a veteran-savvy, talented thrower like him, coupled with the eligibles that they have. And so that certainly has our attention. How they're choosing to deploy their backs in the run game also has our attention. Brown obviously is the featured runner. He's very good on the perimeter and in the screen game. They run a lot of tosses and so forth. They use a nice arsenal of tight ends, Samples, Gesicki, Fant. They do a nice job of mixing up the schematics when they go to those guys in a variety of ways so you don't get a bead on their usage. Zach's called it for a long time. He's familiar with our defensive schematics, and so we're in for an all day's work with that collective as well. I would imagine there'll be a certain level of excitement, man. Those guys having Joe Flacco in a home venue on a Thursday night and some primetime ball. We covet that as well. We love going into hostile environments. We love divisional play. We certainly love and respect and appreciate being a component of primetime football and being able to put our talents on display for the football world. And so to appreciate that and respect that is one thing. To be prepared for it and to bring it to fruition is another. And so I'll be quiet, man, and answer your questions so I can get to work.
Mike, when you see a veteran like Jalen Ramsey prepare himself when it looks like maybe he won't play, do what he has to do to get ready, go out on the field and play, what impact does that have on the rest of the guys?
It's certainly a shining example of what professional football is about. But I doubt that any of us are surprised by it. Just having been around him since he's gotten here, that's very consistent behavior with what he's displayed throughout. And personally, for a guy like me who has scouted him since he was at Florida State, I certainly know that's a component of his football character. So I'm certainly not surprised by it, but it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate it. Not only do we appreciate his willingness to play, we appreciate his playmaking, and you need both in order for it to be real, and he certainly provided both.
Mike, what were your thoughts on the field conditions yesterday, and are you concerned going forward?
I thought it was poor yesterday. I'm not concerned going forward. It's my understanding that turf is going to be swapped out, but I certainly acknowledge it was a concern yesterday.
Did you have any idea, it had been a month since you guys played there, did you have any idea that it was going to be bad?
No, I don't work over there. I work over here.
When you guys decided to pursue Aaron and get the contract done, 6 weeks in now, the way the passing game looks, is it looking the way you had a vision of? And if not, where might it be different, better, worse, however you see it?
I certainly had an overall vision of what it could look like, but it wasn't so detailed that I can compare it to our present state. I think sometimes when you're inflexible from a planning perspective in that way, you're not adaptable enough to be what you need to be. A lot of ideas certainly that we had about what it would look like have been confirmed, but you really don't know what you got until you get it. Being around him day to day and that component of it, his experience, what's natural and fluid for him, the relationships that he's able to develop with others, all of that's a component of the equation that could alter the vision component. And so I'm never too married to a vision. It's certainly moving in the general direction that I anticipated it doing, but it's also reasonable to expect that to continue as we push forward.
And as a follow-up, when you use the word flexibility there, until Calvin does come back, how would you like to see the ball distributed when it's not going to DK?
To open people.
Like on the field conditions, was the playing surface a factor in Miles Killeber's injury?
I have no idea.
Can you just talk about what he means to your special teams and how do you go about replacing him?
He's our captain, but you guys know the motto that we live by. We can certainly hurt for him as a man and as a teammate and a brother and the individual. But from a football perspective, one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity, and we certainly have some capable people, and there's an expectation that others step up and fill in the gaps.
You've coached in the AFC North longer than anybody. What did you make of the rarity of seeing an intra-divisional trade of an experienced quarterback inside the division?
You know, to be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
When the Bengals acquired him, knowing what you know about Zach and how he likes to run his offense, like from Cincinnati's perspective, did it make sense for them?
It certainly made sense from Cincinnati's perspective.
Does Flacco play the way Zach likes to run his offense, basically?
He can throw the football, and he's always been able to throw the football. Arm strength, arm accuracy, anticipatory passer, fluid movement through progressions. That's always been his game.
I think like some of the snap counts, I think some key players were dialed back a little bit yesterday. Did the short week influence any of that decision making at all?
There's a lot of variables in the play time, and I have no intentions of getting into the details of it because it may alter the competitive component moving forward.
What is it about Joe Flacco that he's had the longevity that he's had and is still playing at this high level?
You know, I don't know. I'm not around him day to day. I think oftentimes those questions are better answered by those that are around him day to day. But generally in this business, when somebody's able to compete at a high level for a long time, it's because there's some real tangible day-to-day habits and relationships with the game that make all of that possible.
Mike, how have you seen the offensive line kind of develop through these first 5 games, specifically Rodgers Jones? How has he kind of improved?
You know, I think the collective has gotten consistently better, but I just think that's a reasonable expectation. They're young as individuals, they're young as a collective, and with experience comes execution and precision, and that's been the overall trajectory of it. I've probably answered that question every week over the last 3 weeks, and my answer is still the same. It's moving in the direction in which we would like it. Certainly, whether it's an individual within the group or whether it's the group as a whole.
Mike, following up on that, I talked to Troy Beltano and Zach Frazier after the game, and the things that they said today, Victor, they're finishing and they're doing things like that. You've cultivated past successful offensive lines. What as a coaching staff do you guys have to do to build that path to success for a young group as they're figuring their way?
I think the more you have a better understanding of what you're doing as an individual and a trust that you're a component of a collective, I think it allows you to play harder and to play with emotion and for your talents to show more consistently and more fluidly. And I just think that that's just that's a verbal explanation of what you're looking at.
What did you see out of Caleb Johnson, specifically maybe bouncing back on a confidence level?
What do you mean?
I mean, after the muffed kick there before.
That has nothing to do with his ball carrying. He's never lacked confidence as a ball carrier. He's been continually growing and developing in that area. When given an opportunity to get some reps, he's been good, and we expect that to continue. He hasn't been given an opportunity to bounce back from the kick return, and so it's a separate discussion for me.
How rare is it, or how hard is it to Nick Herbig comes in and plays well, and like Terrell talked about, finding a role for him, then once Alex came back to it, you kind of have to change your schematics.
That's a good problem. I mean, having too many good players and trying to figure out how to distribute reps among capable guys is a good problem. I welcome that problem.
Mike, what kind of advantage do you think your tight end room is, and do you think there's still a lot more there?
I think it's certainly an advantage for us. We've got a diversity of skill set and talent in that room. We got a big one that's capable of matching up against 4-3 ends, particularly in the run game. We have one that's a oversized athlete with excellent run after in Jonnu. We got a zone killer in Freiermuth. We got a versatile guy in Connor, and so the diversity of talent is a component that makes that room as competitive as it is and so helpful to us as a collective.
On that note, a lot of the guys were talking about how you teed up Darnell for that week against the Browns. How fun was it to watch him follow through and embrace that and play like that?
I'll keep our in-house business in-house.
Mike, was that intentional? Assembling guys with different skill sets like that? You didn't get them all at once.
Very much so. Very much so.
Mike, you talked last week about, the reason you drafted Darnell was you had the thought process in mind of 4-3 teams within the division. Similarly, when you put together the secondary, were you thinking in some ways about the challenge of the division, the Bengals, and all their weapons?
Absolutely. You better have some corners taller than me if you're dealing with the likes of T. Higgins and people like that. And so certainly, and that's something that we talk about as a collective, the intimacy of divisional relationships. It's just a component of the game. You better stack up good against those that you compete against in a lot of ways. And so I'm sure people acquire secondary people to match up with that collective. Baltimore took a first-round corner in Nate Wiggins the other year, I'm sure, with that group in mind. The Bengals have taken right tackles in recent years, I'm sure, to minimize TJ's impact in that relationship. That's divisional play. That's what makes it so challenging and so exciting.
Mike, you guys paid Pat a significant chunk of money a couple summers ago. The production in relation to the numbers hasn't been there, but I talked to him.
What, I'm sorry, say it again, please.
The production, like he's not getting.
Who?
Freiermuth. I'm sorry, Freiermuth. He's not getting a lot of targets right now just because of the way the scheme is. The games are unfolding, but he's also not out there complaining about it. He told me yesterday, hey, look, my time is going to come. Do you find that mindset, which hasn't necessarily been the way it's been here for a while, maybe pervasive throughout the offensive unit as a whole, and how much of this may be Aaron's influence in that?
I think that is very reflective of the environment here. I disagree with you. He's a good teammate. We're winning games. We're gaining cohesion. He's certainly capable. He knows his time is going to come to ante up and kick in. He better be ready. I'm sure he will be. That's just how we go about our business.
Mike, what have you learned about Jonnu off the field and the way that he's kind of ingrained himself in the tight ends group, took a bunch of them to the prison to visit his brother last week? Just what have you learned about the man that he is?
He's a good guy, man. But again, we didn't get into this relationship blind. Arthur Smith had worked with him in different locations, and so there was nothing mystical about who he is. It doesn't mean that we don't appreciate it. He's a good teammate. He's got a great relationship with football. He's a good man.
What are some of the most specific challenges of playing on a short week like this, and just using on that experience that you've had over the years?
I don't worry about it, to be quite honest with you. It's a challenge for us, but it's also a challenge for those that we compete against. And so I like to spend my time, and I like to set a mindset within our group that we do a better job navigating it than those we compete against. And that's often the case, whether it's short weeks, whether it's long weeks, whether it's international games. It's my job and our job to make the irregular regular and to deal with it relatively well. And that term relative oftentimes means better than those that you're competing against.
At the same time, you guys have struggled on Thursday nights recently, particularly on the road. Is there anything you can put your finger on as a through line or anything you do?
I'm only concerned about 2025. I got my ass kicked in a lot of ways over the last 19 years.
Mike, Joey Porter Jr. came back from several weeks being off an injury and seemed like he had a pretty strong game of detailed work. What did you appreciate as far as his effort on Sunday?
I thought it was a good game, first game back. I look forward to him to continue to get better. Certainly got a big test coming on Thursday night.
He has 2 straight games under 70 yards rushing after 3 straight over 100. What do you feel like is working better in the run defense?
We're just gaining cohesion. We're getting better. And a component of that is, getting some of our significant pieces back, guys like Deshaun Elliott, who's been back for those 2 games that you mentioned, and who is very active in that component of play.
How much has Harmon impacted the run defense?
You know, we made him an opening day starter as a rookie for a reason. He's a talented guy, but he's missed some time as well. And now that we have him back and he's rounding out in the form, I'd imagine that you're going to feel more of his impact as well.
Credited Arthur Smith with calling plays that helped them play fast on Sunday. What has gone into the game plan to get them to use your guys in a way that they can play that fast?
That's just regular business, man. It is our job to do things in their wheelhouse, to have enough ball so that we're not predictable, but not have too much so we don't paralyze the group individually or collectively. I'm certainly not going to make more out of that than what it is.
Mike, has Darnell shown over the past 2 weeks that he deserved more time than just the four-man fronts, or is that just his sweet spot, you think?
You know, we're going to divide the labor up week in and week out to suit the immediate needs of the competition. And so the last couple of weeks has been significant for obvious reasons that we've discussed. He's certainly probably going to be in a similar position this week in terms of role because, again, it's another 4-3 team. We'll worry about some of that other stuff when we get to it.
Mike, as the run game is heated up for you guys, you've opened up the downfield passing game a little bit. How have you seen defenses react to the running game heating up, and how has that opened up the passing game?
I just think that's a natural football thing. When you're effectively running the football, people have to deploy more people in the box. The people they deploy play with a certain edge, and it creates more space. It challenges their discipline and their eyes, but that's not exclusive to us. That's just football, and not only NFL football, but every level of football.
Mike, what have you liked from Patrick Queen the past, well, the whole season so far?
You know, he looks like a guy in his second year. I challenge second-year guys, whether it's second year in the National Football League or second year with the Steelers. Last year was his first year as a defensive quarterback, and so it's reasonable to expect him to be better, and he certainly has been. And I'm excited about where that's going to go. I know particularly in the last couple of weeks, man, he has been a big impact in our unit.
Anyone else?
Will you install another special teams captain while Miles is out?
I hadn't thought about it. I'm sure we'll think about it a little later in the week after we get some of this heavy lifting out of the way.
Does the size of his role make it almost, it has to be more than one person to replace it?
What's that?
Miles on special, the number of snaps he takes on special teams.
We're going to divide the labor up based on the skill set in a certain space. And so, you know, one guy might be similar to him in punt team. Another guy might be similar to him in terms of what he does on the kickoff team. We'll deal with those individually per space.
It's a quarterback coming in within 8 days of showing up has to start 2 games for a new team. Can you speak to how hard that is, or maybe it's, you know, veteran guy?
Doesn't appear to be hard for Joe Flacco.
All right, next up.
Great. Well, you guys been knowing me to say some of that.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin, and we've talked about his affinity for Joe Flacco over the years. He's made some interesting comments, but today's was a little surprising in that he took shots at Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns, for making a trade. You have to admit it was a little strange at the time, in division for a guy who was their starter, and he didn't hold back. He was very transparent about that answer.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Joe Flacco has shown the longevity that he has had in this league. I remember the game when he was with the Colts last year. Ben Roethlisberger was, you know, sitting in a box watching and even joked, like, you're still doing this. You know, I'm happy to be where I'm at. And we were so used to seeing, you know, Ben and Flacco over the years for Steelers and Ravens. But, hey, good for Joe. It didn't look like the situation Cleveland was working out for him. They traded Kenny Pickett away after they traded for him. So, you know, the Browns is the Browns, as Juju Smith-Schuster has taught us in terms of quarterbacks and the various moves. You know, maybe he could have beat the Packers if he had a little bit more time for the second time this season.
That would have been something unique.
Yes, it would have been the first time in history.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, Jamar Chase and him seemed to get along just fine yesterday. And I'm sure with, you know, a few more days to prepare for the Steelers, it's only going to get better.
There's a reason Cleveland has gone through 41 starting quarterbacks since 1999. That pretty much says it all. So they haven't figured that out yet. And that was a trade that many people kind of raised their eyebrows at, and including Mike Tomlin. So we'll see Joe Flacco coming up. We'll talk more about him. Missy, we'll also talk about the Steelers and their win yesterday against the Browns. It's all coming up as we continue live right here on KDK Plus and your Steeler digital platforms. Don't go away.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Yeah, I mean, I said last week, we need to see some more one-high stuff to take some shots down the field, and you got to run the football to do that. So I feel like the line controlled the line of scrimmage today pretty well, and I thought Jalen ran the ball really well. And Kenny always does well in the run and pass game, but Jalen, he's slippery in there, man. I thought he had some really nice runs.
Eric, can you take us through that touchdown to Hayward? And did you kind of motion to him to go the other way? Is that what happened on that play?
Yeah, it was just a keeper to the right. Jalen had a great block. I think it was Jalen that cut the guy, and I just kind of continued out. First look is in the flat. Second's kind of the DK on the backside. And Connor's really kind of a clear out route. Though we had a similar play against the Jets in week 1 to Calvin for a touchdown. Different formation, kind of different thing we're doing. So I just got out there. Connor's a really smart player, and I just was kind of like, either you or DK, one of you guys see this and go that way. And Connor did, and they, put a decent ball on it, and he made a nice catch.
The 225 yards that you had TK on, what did you like pre-snap from those, if anything, or those something plays that manifested in the pocket for you?
We had one-on-one on the first conversion. He had a quick out conversion. He did a nice job with his late hands. I think the other one was just a quick out that, I thankfully put in a good spot. DB kind of tried to break on it, and DK made a play. The other, his third catch was on the shallow cross after I threw a bad one on the inside go. And his fourth catch was a nice little slant and go he ran.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked up. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
He's our captain, but you guys know the motto that we live by. We can certainly hurt for him as a man and as a teammate and a brother and the individual. But from a football perspective, one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity, and we certainly have some capable people, and there's an expectation that others step up and fill in the gaps.
That's Mike Tomlin talking about the injury to Miles Killebrew, which will have him out this week. He called it significant yesterday. A tough one for a guy who's really good at what he does, an all-pro at special teams, and on top of that, a very nice guy as well, so it's tough to see.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's consistently been the special teams captain for the Steelers. He lives and breathes for that role. He is very good at it, and Coach was even asked, how do you go about replacing somebody that plays that many special teams snaps? And it will be a divisional labor thing to fit other guys, and then it goes into who gets a helmet on Sunday. So there's a trickle-down effect for sure, but I think as soon as he grabbed his knee and the way that his teammates went around him, you could tell that it was significant, as Coach did say today. So unfortunate for Miles and the rest of the team that it happened that way.
Yeah, but they do have some willing participants on special teams, and some of those guys will get an opportunity, just as we saw Keyshawn Williams get his opportunity because of the injury to Austin, and I thought he gave them a little bit of energy on that kickoff return. One was called back by the penalty, which was a little iffy to me.
Yeah.
But that was a good thing to see because we saw him in the preseason, and he was very effective
Right.
as a wide receiver also.
Yeah, he was the only one that returned the punts, in the preseason, so you caught all of his games. And he did have that touchdown, too, in the preseason. So just another one of those guys that, they continue to work with and help get better. And he was on the practice squad, and when his number was called, he was ready to go and said they did prep him a little bit. More than normal this week, knowing that Calvin was potentially not going to be able to go. So In terms of injuries, though, with Calvin, that shoulder injury, it's kind of we'll see. It's a short week. He obviously could not play yesterday against the Browns. We'll see what happens for Cincinnati. But the good news is that Joey Porter and Jalen Ramsey, who both returned to action, no ill effects from anything. I was shocked that Jalen Ramsey was able to return from that hamstring injury, even with the bye week. But it just proves, the type of player and teammate he is. Aaron Rodgers even went out of his way to make sure he said that to the media yesterday.
He really did. And he, talk about a guy who, when it first happened, because it happened in Dublin, you saw him grab that thing, and you think these things normally, especially for guys who you want around at the end of the year, all right, you'd give him this game and another short week and then come back from there. But he was working hard to get back, and he did, and he played a heck of a game. 2 sacks, first time in his career, 2 sacks. Boy, I thought the defense in general, Missy, was just flying all over the place. We saw it in Minnesota, more so than we had even in the previous games. But, man, yesterday they made it tough, especially with a rookie quarterback. He has to throw back or step back 58 times to pass. This is what he felt all day long, and I give him credit for surviving.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey just shot out of nowhere on that first sack. But I think, hey, you have to admit that injuries were playing a factor in terms of the Steelers' defense. Yesterday was the first time all of the original supposed to be starter guys were healthy and able to play. Peyton Wilson didn't get the start. It was Cole Holcomb, but we still saw Peyton Wilson and Cole kind of changing how we've seen it. It's worked so well over recent weeks. Obviously, Nick Herbig's leading the team in sacks. He had 2 yesterday as well. So we saw what that was able to do, and it is why there were 12 defenders announced yesterday, to get a chance to run out of the tunnel. And it makes sense. He deserves it the way that he's been playing after missing the first game. So it's pretty remarkable what he's been able to do with 1 less games than the rest of his teammates.
And another guy is Derek Harmon. He missed, just like Herbig, missed the first game and beyond. And he's come in there now, and you can tell the impact and why the Steelers, as soon as they drafted him, put him on the start line. He was going to be that starter. And then the injury occurred, but he's come back. He had a sack yesterday. That's 2 on the year for him. Beyond that front 7 is making it tough on everyone. They're winning the line of scrimmage. And when you do that, quarterbacks are going to pay a price.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Cam Hayward didn't have his 4th straight game of tipping a pass that led to an interception, which would have been incredible if it happened again. But they're all getting their hands up, batting down passes, and as you said, just making life miserable for opposing quarterbacks and offensive lines. Derek Harmon is a big dude, and he has really come along, and you can just tell all the veterans on that defense just taking him under their wing to help him out and get him up to speed, and it's paying dividends for
Another
him.
guy we haven't mentioned enough is Keanu Benton. He's been getting better each and every game, and I think he has an impact on Derek Harmon as a first-year player, so that could be helpful as they grow together as a group. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Cincinnati, what they've done, and Joe Flacco now being their quarterback. He has a game under his belt. What can the Steelers do to kind of minimize his impact on this game? We'll talk about that and more as we continue right here on KDKA Plus and your Steeler digital platforms.
Fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
And it's picked off. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
I think it's just a collective, a group of guys, in that room. We got a tight-knit group, got great coaches in Coach Dunbar, Coach Denzel Martin, great leaders, TJ, Alex, and Cam. And like I said, man, it takes some time to mesh, come together, but I think that we're all starting to figure each other out and playing off each other and playing with a lot of energy out there together, and it's great to see all that come to fruition.
From a one-game perspective, they came in with the #1 ranked rush defense in football. How much pride do you guys take in the job that you guys did against their run today?
Yeah, I mean, it's AFC North football, man. It's tough-nosed, smash-mouth, old-school football. And the goal was to go out there and be the better defense today.
What's it like for you guys when you do that and not only you don't allow a touchdown?
I mean, that's just, credit to the coaches, the players, everybody just doing their job. Still let up too much points, too much yards. Not satisfied with what we did out there. It can be a lot better. And I'm excited to get back to work.
What is? Go ahead, Omar.
after 45 years I've been covering you guys, I've never seen a defense introduced with 12 people, 12 men. So that honor is probably living on your shoulders. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I wasn't expecting that at all. You know, DY and Mike T told me before the game, and I just wear that with great pride and honor because I know all the great legendary players that have come through these buildings and walked the same halls as me, and just the fact that they have that belief in me, that respect for me, to allow me to run out of the tunnel with all the guys. You know, I'm truly blessed.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
You know, to be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Interesting comment there by Mike Tomlin, shared by a lot of people when that trade happened. You don't necessarily get it from the head coach on that topic because it's in division against teams you're going to have to play. But I think a lot of people had the same thought process because Joe Flacco was named their starter after they went through Kenny Pickett, they went through Dylan Gabriel, they went through Shadur Sanders, they still have Deshaun Watson hanging around, and all of a sudden
they collect quarterbacks.
They collect them and then distribute them elsewhere. Now he's distributed to Cincinnati, but interesting comment, but he knows Joe Flacco, and I think he obviously has a lot of respect for Joe Flacco, what he can do. We saw that yesterday. Came in really with one day of prep and looked like he'd been there for a long time.
Yeah, and, you know, Jamar Chase can make any quarterback look good probably, but it's still, you know, it's a new team. It's just the rush of everything to get prepared for. And it's not like the Browns fleeced the Bengals in this trade somehow. They just swapped late-round picks. So, you know, again, to go back to Coach's point, it didn't make sense in any way you tried to make it make sense, but that's neither here nor there. The Steelers will see Flacco. They would have saw him yesterday potentially. They're now definitely going to see him on Thursday when they go short week to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. So it's somebody they played against before. They'll have to, you know, prepare and also mix it in with what the Bengals were trying to do pre-Joe Burrow getting that turf toe.
One final thing about that trade, because I heard Kevin Stefanski when he had his press conference last week, he was asked about it. He said, I had no idea.
Right.
When your coach doesn't know that's happening, that's not a good thing with communication between GM and coach.
Could you imagine Coach Tomlin going to a press conference and finding out about a trade he didn't know about? I can't.
Well, I think it's safe to say most teams, they have to be sound on the communication with the front office. Obviously, that was not the case. But you're watching Flacco here. You know, I wonder, the Steelers have been so good, Missy, coming after the quarterback of late. They don't want to abandon that. Offensive line for Cincinnati has been in flux. How quickly must he get the ball off? And I think that's an advantage to the Steelers because mostly Higgins and Higgins is more of the deep route guy. You need more time to get him the ball. Would you expect a lot of short passes here and hopeful yards if you're Cincinnati?
Yeah, you would have to. You would have to hope kind of how quickly Aaron Rodgers was getting the ball out at the beginning of the year. And that obviously got better yesterday, as we saw with the Steelers' offense, of him not having to do it as quickly. But, you know, there's no way you can turn on the game tape from the Steelers' defense, especially over the past 3 games, and not think that you're going to have to not get the ball out quickly. So I would be a little worried if I was Cincinnati. It's obviously, you know, you throw the records out, especially when it's an AFC North team. We say that all the time, and the Steelers have not had a good record on Thursday Night Football, especially on the road.
Yeah, against division opponents, I think they're winless in that. And so
0-6.
0-6
since 2007.
And I think 2-9 overall. So as well as they do on Sunday nights and Monday nights, Thursday night's been a kind of a bugaboo for them. But we'll see how this goes. And the Steelers certainly want to continue what they're doing on offense, which is really Aaron Rodgers at his best. This version of him is not what you saw in 2021. His numbers are similar to his first 6 games in 2021 in terms of efficiency, but this is a different Aaron Rodgers. He's using his brain a lot making sure things are there, the cadence that he uses to his advantage, I think that throws a lot of teams off.
Absolutely, and it's something that everybody knows about him and what he's really good at, and it is just amazing and awesome to see. Most of those offensive guys, obviously not DK Metcalf, were here last year, and the way that they're utilizing them. Connor Hayward getting a touchdown yesterday wasn't on my bingo card. Even what Darnell Washington
First
has
play
done,
of the game.
and we have seen him do that. Even in 7 shots at training camp. But plays like that, DK is just, he's on a different level, and you can't say enough good things about that trade that they made. I understand everyone wanted that second-round pick this year, and it was very weird waiting such a long period of time, but he was worth it completely. And I think it's also how Aaron Rodgers has also brought this offensive line along, a group that I think we were all a little worried about potentially at the beginning of the year. How will they mesh together? Max Starks, former offensive lineman, always say it takes 4 to 5 games sometimes. And I think we luckily got a little peek a little bit earlier. And it's always a good thing when Mason McCormick and them are, enjoying the game, signaling first down, and the offense is moving down the field.
Yeah, and 2 tackles yesterday did very well. I know there was some help over on the side for Broderick Jones, but his performance has gotten better each and every week. So that's a very important part of this. And eventually, when they get away from or don't use, Darnell Washington and Anderson as much, you're going to see, hopefully those guys on their own can handle it. It opens up a whole wide variety of things down the field in the past.
No doubt, but the Browns also, gave their guys help to stop TJ Watt and company, and that didn't work so well. So you have to give, our offensive line a lot more credit, because Myles Garrett didn't have the type of day that I think, people
That
expected.
debate is always out there, Watt versus Myles Garrett.
Team TJ, always.
Always take Watt on it just because the numbers indicate that. And yesterday was another big example where Myles Garrett had, I think, 1.5 tackles. That's it, nothing else. I understand he was double teamed at times and they were trying to chip him or whatever the case may be, but Watt finds that stuff happening to him a lot, and he still fights through it. We're going to take a break, come back with more as we continue with the Mike Tomlin news conference on a Monday. I'm all messed up on days of the week now. What day is it? What year is it?
Yeah.
Here we go. And we'll be back with more right after this.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
What do you like about the way the offense is evolving here as each week you go?
We keep finding different ways to win, and the defense keeps, keeping us in games whenever we, lull through the first half like we did today. So I think we're just playing complementary ball on both ends.
DK, what's key to the timing on those routes that you're having success with Aaron right now?
I think it's just the timing during practice, and us talking about the different DBs that we're going to go against throughout the week, and making sure we're both on the same page with how they play me, either press coverage, soft shoe, or if they hard jam, if they 2-hand jam or 1-hand jam, and just all those details about the DBs.
The 2 25-yarders that you had when you got to the line in both cases, did you feel like those were opportunities that were going to cash in? Did you think you had a chance on those 2?
Yes, sir. Especially when 8's in the gun, especially throwing the football. I always think I got a chance, especially with the way our O-line is playing. They're definitely giving them time back there to find the open guy downfield.
DK, with some of the personnel groupings you guys are using, you're able to start seeing single high, which allows you to get the downfield attack going. How has that kind of opened things up for you, not just in the yards after catch game, but also catching those deep balls on those fade routes and the 9 routes?
I think it's pretty much the run game opening up, all those middle of the field throws or on the outside throws, because they got to stack the box to try to stop the run. Like I said, I keep giving praise to our O-line for either pass blocking or run blocking, because they go against some heavy hitters week in and week out, and they're holding their own every week.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
And it's picked up. What a catch! Wow! Guess who?
see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
You better have some corners taller than me if you're dealing with the likes of T. Higgins and people like that. And so certainly, and that's something that we talk about as a collective, the intimacy of divisional relationships. It's just a component of the game. You better stack up good against those that you compete against in a lot of ways. And so I'm sure people acquire secondary people to match up with that collective. Baltimore took a first-round corner and Nate Wiggins the other year, I'm sure, with that group in mind.
That's Mike Tomlin talking about the matchups and the stuff that the Steelers have to deal with on defense with two guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and now Joe Burrow throwing the football has sort of really put a little excitement into their game, because yesterday Chase was at his best. When Jake Browning was in, there were a lot of interceptions. There were a lot of panic throws, it seemed, although I thought Jake Browning was better than that just because he's been there for so long, but he wasn't. So now this is a new challenge for the Steelers. You got Flacco throwing the ball to those guys. And while Mike Tomlin has always said, well, this is divisional football, you know them, they know us, there's also a new defensive coordinator over there in Cincinnati too.
Yeah, and Al Golden, he did bring that up. As you know, you go against Jim Schwartz, you kind of know what the method to his madness is. Aaron Rodgers even talked about it. I think that was the 14th time Aaron's gone against him from their Green Bay and Detroit days. But with Al Golden being new to the National Football League, not football, it is a little bit of, what are they going to do type thing. So something they'll have to look at, and it's a short week. Even coach was like, all right, I'm going to stop talking. I'll answer your questions. I want to get back to work. Because short weeks are clearly hard to prepare for, and it's a divisional opponent. So you want to get that win, especially with the way things are shaking out right now in terms of where the Steelers are sitting, their record, and the rest of the division. The Ravens are off this week, I'm pretty sure, with a bye. And we'll have to see what happens with the Browns. But yeah, definitely something to take into account there. And Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase, and he seemed to
what a catch that was.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to back down on Thursday based on his words after the game yesterday in Green Bay.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting challenge. I wonder who gets it. The Steelers have used multiple methods of playing defense. They've had Ramsey in the slot, at the corner, and the safety. So how do you think that matchup goes? You're going to have healthy guys here. Joey Porter, who was down on the ground, and I thought he might have another or a continuation of the injury he was dealing with, but he's fine. You got some tall guys out there to answer their tall guys. How do you think those matchups go?
I think Jalen Ramsey is going to play a role in this one. I used to love the hate between Mika Fitzpatrick and Jamar Chase. There's been, some instances and pictures that have come from those two. Obviously, Mika is now in Miami, but Jalen made it pretty clear, I think, at the beginning of the year, like, I'm still the one. I'm still that guy. Joey and them will get their share too, but I am interested to see Jalen and maybe Jamar go at it.
I've been very impressed with how he comes sometimes late on blitzes, and he's so fast. He ran down Gabriel yesterday from behind, and that's a young kid who has got some pretty good legs, but so does Jalen Ramsey, and he showed it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think the way they've been using him as a chess piece in this defense is very exciting to see. Even what they've been doing with DK Metcalf. You saw him at halfback yesterday and not really knowing what was happening there. So, I think Ramsey and Jamar Chase. Yeah, I kind of want to see Ramsey on Jamar Chase.
Other thing, first and foremost, they're going to try to stop the run, because once you 100%. Do that, you saw what you saw yesterday. But this is a veteran quarterback, so a little different here. But I also think Patrick Queen has done really good work there. We don't mention his name enough, but when it comes to physicality in the middle of the field, he's always there making something happen.
And his hits yesterday, you heard them from the sideline. He definitely got ramped up for that one. But as you said, I think we have seen the maturation and the continuous growth throughout the season. It seems very quickly, but last year was his first year as the green dot, the defensive caller, a whole new defense, and you can just tell how much more comfortable he is. Plus, I don't think it hurts when you add Jalen Ramsey, as we talked about, Darius Slay, and having that group of guys helping you as well.
Yeah, what an offseason it was, looking back now for the Steelers, Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin and company, to bring in all these guys, and really didn't give up all that much of future assets to get them. So far, so good. They're 4-1. everyone. We'll be back with more as we continue right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked off. What a catch! Wow! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
How good did it feel to have a fully healthy defense out there and really translated the way you guys were playing today?
It felt good. Yeah, simple answer for that. It felt good.
What do you think about the way you guys bottled up the run, and how much was that a key coming into this game?
It was one of our keys to victory. So obviously, we got to watch the film to see exactly how we did. I'm sure it wasn't perfect, but it was definitely a key to victory, and I think we did well.
Jalen, what has been the key to the defense kind of having these stronger performances the last two games? Is it as simple as everyone's healthy, or is there more to it?
Being focused on the details, maybe a little bit more. Playing together, flying around. Still things to, fix. It doesn't look perfect out there, but it's a next play mindset. We go take play by play, and we just go get it.
How much did you guys want those last couple stops to keep them out of the end zone the entire day?
Oh yeah, that's always important in NFL games. You can keep an NFL offense out of the end zone. That's something to be proud of. It's something important.
Jalen, is this kind of a statement win for you guys, first AFC North game, and just the way you guys play on it?
I would say it's an important win. I think every game's important, but obviously divisional opponent I think is a little bit extra important. I wouldn't say statement win, but it was an important game, I would say.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
All right, quick injury update. The bad news, Miles Killebrew is dealing with a significant knee injury. He is out for Thursday night. We'll have to wait and see about Calvin Austin. He missed the game against the Browns with a shoulder injury, but it sounds like Joey Porter and Jalen Ramsey, who returned from injury, no ill effects, so good to go for Thursday.
Yeah, Calvin Austin we'll see as the week goes on, but it's Cincinnati and Pittsburgh Thursday night. Mike Tomlin Show, presented by 84 Lumber, will air on Wednesday night. So on behalf of Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again as we get ready for Green Bay the following week right here on the Tomlin. It'll be Tuesday then. Have a good day.